So we're going to do a short video today on the Old River Nene at March. Probably a section you're trying to work out exactly where we are. It's a bit of a sort of historic stretch of the Old River Nene that we can't fish for matches anymore because a lot of it's private gardens and so forth. So this is Nene Parade. For those that have sort of heard the name Nene Parade, this used to win every single one of the March Opens. The fish used to ram in here. As you can see, it's a little bit narrower. It's not as deep. I'm hoping it's going to be absolutely rammed today. The rest of the river is, so there's no reason why this shouldn't be. Hopefully we're going to start on the groundbait and pinky approach and catch a few fish on the hemp later on. So yeah, basically we're going to try and turn £10 into £20. Little tricks that I do and fishing on the drains all my life really. So we're going to start with a simple approach at 4+1 groundbait choice. I keep things really simple. Trusty G5 black and turbo black all year round. Fantastic groundbait, whether you're targeting roach, skimmers, pommies as we call them, gusters, whatever you like. Brilliant groundbait. Obviously depending on the weather and how many fish you think are in your peg and the flow on the river. Obviously the drains vary. Some days you'll think it'll be tanking through and you get there and it stood still. This groundbait's perfect. If you get to your peg and it's raging and swirling, just add more groundbait, and then always carry a bag of Turtle Riviere. I know it's quite heavy, but this is the collant one. It's very sticky. I like to put quite a lot of particles in my groundbait, so you can just put that straight in. It's already riddled. Brilliant Turtle Riviere. Just carry it in your van or in your motor, just in case you get down here and you think, oh dear, that's a bit fast today. I can just add that to my mix. Like we mentioned, I like to put plenty of particles in my groundbait, especially on these like jam-packed swims. We're down Nene Parade today and it doesn't get fished very often, and I think we're going to have a really good day. So they're going to be hungry fish. This is obviously a great carrier, but if I want to add even more to my mix, I always bring some colics with me. So it's like a binder, groundbait binder. Just makes it stick, gets your particles down, your pinkies or squats, maggots, whatever you're doing. So it's always brilliant little items to carry in your box or in your bag, just to make your groundbait bind. Another big advocate that I always bang on about is Aramix. Basically I want an inert dead mix. Always mix my groundbait the night before. Add as much water in it as I can. Half a bottle of this to 4 kilos of groundbait is plenty. Obviously add this to your water, then mix the water into the groundbait night before, and then I just carry them to the bank in the new Advantage little bowls, which are insulated, so it keeps your groundbait in tip-top condition. That's it really. Keep the groundbait simple. It's all about the particles inside. We're going to feed groundbait with quite a lot of pinkies in, quite a lot of particles. We've gone through the groundbait mix that we're using, so it's quite a sticky heavy mix. We're probably going to put 3 or 4 balls of groundbait in to start off with and see what we get. I'm not going to start loose feeding, just see what stamp of fish I can sort of draw into a peg straight away. And then just to the back end of the boat, in probably about 3.5 foot of water, I'm going to feed a big pot of hemp. I'm not going to loose feed too much over there. I'm just going to sort of feel my way into the session, see what happens, might pot some more hemp in later on. But I'm going to have 2 hours down the middle and see what I can catch, and then hopefully catch some real nice stamp roach across. So rigs for the job. I'm a big advocate of the Colmick Jollies. I've got a 1 gram and a 4B18, which is 0.75 of a gram, both with an Olivet that I can move up and down according to the size of the fish that I'm going to be catching. And they're set at dead depth to start off with. And then for a cross, I've got the one of our own Tackle Bates trio pole floats in a 4x12, which you might think is fairly heavy, but it's just over the magic depth, as we say. So it's a good 3.5 foot to the back end of that boat. So let's see how we go. The aim of the video today is to take a 10 pound weight into a 20 pound weight, and in order to do that, your elastic has to be correct. And what I mean is, obviously there's no point using too heavy elastic and bumping every fish off. Using a too light elastic, and you just can't physically compete with an angler that's got their tackle and gear balanced perfectly. So when the fish are migrating into the town earlier on in the season, the fish tend to be bigger, more aggressive, hungrier fish, and you need a slightly heavier elastic. Now we're coming into February, the fish have had a bit more of a battering, they're a bit more pressured, you tend to go for a softer elastic. The section we're fishing today hasn't been pressured at all, so I'm expecting to rewind back to November style fishing. And in order to sort of get those big weights, and I'll show as the session goes on how I sort of fish a 4-in-1 approach. So your conventional elastics would be through obviously your top kit. I've actually got customized mine. I've actually wrapped halfway up my number 3 section, just so I've got just the right amount of elastic. Now that's a number 5 Preston slip, and that is what I'm going to be using on my hemp across. I'm fishing in shallower water, so I want to be able to strike, make sure the fish doesn't come out of the water if I can help it, and ship straight back. But at the same time, I don't want to be having elastic here, there and everywhere trying to net the fish. So that's a 5 Preston, you just traditional number 5 original and best slip. So that's my hemp elastic, got that one out of the way. Then I've got what I'm going to use on my 4-in-1. So I've got pretty short kits anyway with a DAIWA pole. This is just a number 2 section of my DAIWA pole, and that is fitted with a 5 Preston Dura slip. Now that's a hybrid elastic. It's fairly soft, so I can strike, set the hook nicely, but then when it comes to swinging the fish in, this will bottom out pretty quick, and then sort of 3-ounce fish should come straight to hand, which we'll show in the video later on. So that is my go-to elastic for bagging. Some people will fish it through the whole 3 and use a heavier, thicker elastic. I just like that size elastic is about bang on. So that's my 4+1 for good stamp fish. This time of year now, when the fishing's a bit harder, the fishing gets smaller, all I've done is I've just put original 4 slip, again, oh, that's the wrong one, through just the number 2 section. I get asked a lot in the shop about what connectors I use and things like that. I just use a standard crow's foot on the end, but what I actually do is ESP do a tungsten loaded stop, and the reason why I choose the loaded stop is sometimes, for example, when you've got a bit of elastic hanging out, for example, because it's loaded, sometimes if it's not, you get the old twist around your pole, but because it's loaded it wants to hang down, so the weight's always down. Just a little, whether it gives you an advantage or not, I don't know, but I get less tangles I find with those beads than a normal rubber bead. And then obviously Preston original 4 through my full kit. If I was fishing sort of tight across in real shallow water, then I'd opt for that. You've still got the control with obviously a side puller if you do hook a big fish. So they're my sort of 4 sort of setups for approaching the old Nene at March. Hook baits, really simple. Pinkies, pinkies and more pinkies, and a few maggots. I like to use as bright pinkies as I can get hold of. We sell quite a lot of what we call double dips or disco pinkies. They're very popular in the shop. Basically they're a fluoro pinky with a bronze dye added to them. They sort of glow in the dark. Really good for getting your hook bait to stand out. And then the other type is bronze. Now for me, I love bronze pinkies. They're tougher, so you can get more fish, you know, without having to change your hook bait. They sink a bit quicker, and for me, they just pick out that better stamp fish. So basically, pinkies, pinkies, and more pinkies. So I'm going to feed my hemp line. So we've got a 250ml pot, and I'm probably going to put 200ml of hemp. Not going to bother with putting any pinkies in. We're just going to get at the back end of that boat. Obviously I'm not going to use the boat as the marker because it moves quite a bit, so I've got a nice post in the garden opposite. I'm just going to put that there, just going to give that a bit of a whoosh around there. So it's just 1 pot of hemp, goes nice down, and then I'm going to feed my main ground bait line. The key thing is for March is it can move both ways, so you've got to be really careful where you feed your ground bait from the start. Normally if I get to my peg and the river's pushing, sort of normally it goes left to right. I'm not going to feed my ground bait too far down my peg because I run the risk of the fish backing off. I don't want to feed it too far up my peg because sometimes the fish can come above your bait, especially at the start of the season when they're really aggressive and hungry. So I'm going to feed it probably at about 1:30 o'clock, if that makes sense. So between 1 and 2 o'clock, that's when I'm going to feed my ground bait, just there. That gives me, if it does stop and go the other way, I've still got room to fish above my ground bait, and if the fish do come above it, I can fish directly in front of me and muller them there. So feed it with my trusty ground bait mix. Quite stiff balls, I don't want too much coming off these to start off with, because I want to try and catch a bigger stamp of fish. And we're trying to chase the stamp, not numbers. Obviously we're going to catch a lot of fish today, but we need to catch the right stamp. Right, so I'm going to start on a 1 gram rig with 1 dropper, set dead depth. So that's 1 number 9 dropper, so nice and positive. And I'm going to start on double pinky. So we've got size 19 Hayabusa 128, which is a pretty strong hook. I won't say it's fairly fine, but so it's double pinky. Here we go. So I'm going to drop that bang on top of where that ground bait's going. There we are, there's one on that straight away, which is quite a small fish, which can be not a great sign. There we are, these are the stamp we want, real nice fish, straight out. No mate, no. Yeah. Fishing really positive rig, so it's a gram rig, 1 drop. As you can see, it's a carbon stem float, so it follows the weight straight down and fishes really quickly. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to set my stopwatch and I'm just going to time myself. A little 5-minute mini match to myself, see how many I can catch. So I've had 9 fish in about 5 minutes, which you might think that's, you know, that's pretty good going, but I was hoping for sort of 12 really. Fishing this way, you fish really fast, and they've been a right mixture of stamp, so I'm not sure how I'm going to feed it. I'm just going to keep what I'm doing and see if the bigger fish do switch on at any moment. What I might have to start doing is be more aggressive with the ground bait, or I might have to be more aggressive with the loose feed, so that's something that I've got to try out. There's lots of small fish here, so I've had quite a few missed bites. I've tried different depths as well. I've tried coming off the bottom, and you can catch quicker, but they tend to be a slightly smaller stamp. I mean, they're what, ounce and a half size fish, so you can soon put together a real nice weight. So what I'll do is normally this line in a match will last for 2 hours. If you can make it last 3 hours, you're laughing. But once the fish start to back off, that's when the hemp comes into play. So I'm just going to keep on this line now and just work out what's the best way of feeding. Each day is different depending on the flow. Fishing super aggressive, and hopefully we can catch some bigger fish. So we're switching to the hemp now. And that's first chuck. Pristine little roach. Not the giant ones that we're hoping for, but I'm sure they'll come. On a 4x12 rig. Just going to lay it in and hold the rig dead tight, so all them little strung out shot can just fall nicely. Got a little back shot on that, just so it keeps a nice tight between the float and the pole tip. Oh, little indications. Misbite them. Lay that back in. Just going to keep feeding this short line. Gonna have a quick look. There we are, look, on the drop. Not particularly great big stamper, but hopefully they'll get bigger and bigger. So we're getting lots of little tiny little indications, slow bites. Don't think it's quite ready for the hemp yet. I think there's obviously a lot of small fish here, so a little bit of hemp on there. See what response we get, but I'm gonna have a quick look and then go back down the middle, because I can catch the same stamp fish 3 times as quick down the middle. And normally, ideally on the hemp, you want to lay your rig, hold it nice and tight. As the rig's just settling, it should carry on going. I think the hemp's come off there. Missed that bite. Hold it tight, bang on the marker. There'll be one on there. Yep. I thought we'd be catching a great big roach over here, but they're a bit small, so I'm going to catch one more. I'm going to refeed it and then go back down the middle, I think. No, they're still on. There we are. We'll come off that now. So after about 25 minutes, the stamp sort of sorted itself out. I thought it might do. Just loose feeding a few pinkies, catching bang over where the pinkies are landing. And I think the fish have just settled. I get the impression the fish have settled and they're better stamp fish. So the stamp we're catching now, the ones I thought we'd be catching, and they're sort of 2 ounce fish, some of them 4 ounce fish. 2 or 3 fish a minute. So you can, if you can catch for 5 hours, that's a small fish straight away, popped up on the drop. It's a little rudd. They're what we're trying to avoid. That's why we're fishing super aggressive. A few pinkies. The wind's just got up as well, making it a bit awkward. But that's why I like to fish this style of method, because you're in control of your rig, dependent on the wind. You bang over your bait, whereas with a whip you miss bites. You tend to have to bring the whole rig back in. With this method, you strike, drop the rig straight back over the top of where you just had the bite. Exactly like that. Whereas with a whip, you'd have to flick the whole rig back in. Oh, I reckon my bait's pinky's folded over my hook. And it has. What I will say with these Hayabusa hooks is that they've got quite a big barb on them. Some people like to just nick the barb down, but I just like to strike a bit harder. It's really starting to motor now. And better fish, sort of 9 fish probably to a pound. So you can soon build a big weight up really quickly. Just had a bonus perch as well, probably about half a pound. So yeah, I missed that bite, straight back in, right over my ground bait. Now something's happened there, I started missing bites. It might be my feeding, I might be feeding too often so the fish have gone a bit scatty. So I'm just going to cut back on the loose feed now. There we are. Nice stamp roach. Fenland roach. So as you probably see with this method, it's like short lining but just as fast, if not quicker than a whip. I can keep the line at the back of my float, obviously wind's left to right today, so I'm in control of my rig. And bang over my bait. Double pinky's been best. So yeah, eat, sleep, rave, repeat.
It's a rave! Coffee rave! What?
So we're a good 2.5 hours into the session now, and the flow's stopped, the flow's gone through fast. It's done a bit of everything, and I've had to sort of adjust my feeding according. I put a slightly heavier rig on at one point. I got 1.5 grams out of the box, and that was bang on. Now the flow's stopped, and it's sort of, you have to sort of start your match again almost, just to try and sort them better stamped fish out. So I've just topped up again with 2 balls, so double cup as we call it, with quite a lot of bait in. Normally we sort of put less and less, but there's a hell of a lot of fish here. So the last top up I've put quite a lot of bait in, lots of pinkies in my mix, and fed it quite stiff. I put a little bit more water in my mix, and yeah, gone back to my gram rig, bulk right down, 19 Hayabusa 128 to 09. So if we do hook anything decent, we can sort of swing it in. It's gone a bit small, but normally find when you top up your initial fish go a bit small, and then after sort of a little while the fish get a bit bigger. A lot of little pommies, little skimmers, but mainly roach, and a few dumpy little billies popped in as well. In a normal open match, I'd just be staying on this line, just catching really steady. I've tried the hemp 2 or 3 times, and the bites are very sort of little dibs on the float, and the fish are pretty much the same size. So what I'm doing now, fishing this 4-on-1 method, definitely is what I'd be staying on. Couple more, I'm going to try the hemp. Getting that time of day. That boat's moved loads. Look, smaller. Right, hemp time. Flow's changed again. But I'm going to try the back of this boat, see if we can catch some better fish. was a foul hooker. Well, hemp's still on. Lay it in. Lots of little taps, which obviously is a sign that they're small fish. Got to be on. And it's just a bit awkward because I'm fishing the back of the boat. So I've fed that 2 or 3 times now and just going back over with some sort of 150 ml of hemp each time. Lots of small fish intercepting on the way down. Normally you want your rig to weight up and just sit there, and then just a nice positive little dink on the float, and normally it's a better stamped fish, but there's a lot of fish there. Just going to come off the bottom slightly. All them trill merchants will be one a bung now. So in a match now, I'd be sort of making a decision what to do, and although there's a lot of fish over there, not particularly massive hemp fish, they're very finicky little bites, and there's fish at all different depths, so I've obviously not fed it very well, but I'd probably make the decision now to go back and carry on down the middle, because the speed I was catching down there and the size of the fish, it makes sense. This bite, you shouldn't be missing bites like this. That one's been battered, look. Flowing again now. Oh, this is a big perch. If we can get this one even-handed, be proud of this one. You might even measure it. See that under the water? This one might be a pound if I can get this one in. Oh yes, look at him. Big fat Billy, look. Oh yes. Look at that. It's even been attacked by something, look. Probably a pound, that one. He's a big old warrior, him. So, literally 10 minutes ago it stood still and was backing up to the left, and now it's pulling off hard to the right again. You never can tell with this venue what it's going to do. That's why the fish are constantly changing in your peg. Sometimes they're up, then they're down. Just be in tune with where they are. So I've gone probably 2 or 3 chucks there without a bite, and that one's come off. So with the change in flow, I've obviously adapted with my rigs. So I've gone from 1 gram to 1.5 grams as the flow got quicker, and then as the flows ease off, I've gone to 3/4 gram. Alternated my depths quite a bit, and the ground bait as well. At stages there you couldn't loose feed because it was just moving too quick for the loose feed, and the fish were backing off down your peg. So I've sort of fed it in ground bait, fed little ploppers, so every 3 or 4 fish, just to try and bring them back into your over to your ground bait. So I've had to really sort of keep in tune, and there's a lot of fish there, but you've still had to do it right. It's not been one of them days where just put your rig in and it goes under every chuck, but it's not been far off it. So as you can see now, the pace is proper picked up. So I'm reluctant to loose feed. The problem is every time the flow changes, the stamp of the fish change. So like what we said earlier, you've got to chase the stamp, not the numbers. Some days, you just cannot sort of better stamp a fish out, and you've got to take your brain out and just catch what's there and catch as fast as you can. But today there's been little spells of fish. I mean, it's proper moving again now. Normally when it moves like this, the bigger fish will start to feed, but I'm going to have to top up, I think. Fish have gone a little bit small and they've backed off right down the peg. I'm going to have another couple, then we're going to top up and see what happens. So we've got a nice hard sticky ball. Just pick the marker on the far bank. We can't pick that boat because that's moving up and down, so the pace is proper picked up, and the water level, I reckon, in the last 5 minutes has dropped 1 inch, and probably 2.5 inches, which if you didn't have your depth gauge in, I mean, I've just looked at that now and it has dropped 2.5 inches in no time whatsoever, which is madness. And as you can see, it's proper pulling again now. The wind's just putting it through a little bit harder than it actually is going, but let's see what happens. So I predict some smaller fish to start, and then a little bit stampier fish to come in after 5-10 minutes of topping up. So, summarise the day, fish for 3 hours. As you can see, the stamp's pretty good. Some nice quality roach amongst them there, some nice billies as well. It's just under 35 pound in just over 3 hours, so short line was definitely the way to go. Really enjoyed it. Hopefully you've picked up a few tips of turning £10 into £35. So yeah, a few little tricks that I do on the drains to try and improve your catch rate. Hope you enjoyed the video.